we are in we are in Mercury retrograde, and I'm just going to remind you that when we are in Mercury retrograde, Mercury has to do with communication and technology and the mind. And when we are in Mercury retrograde, communication breaks down. Like the other day, the whole NAPLAN, which is the government's huge testing process that they do over here in Australia for schools that they do nationwide. The whole thing went down. And I was like, of course it did. It's Mercury retrograde. And sure enough, I have now just sat here and I did an entire little live for the first time. And I had my headphones on, and it turned out there was a crossover between the headphones and my current microphone. And it took all of my, movement, but it did not take any of my words. I couldn't hear myself. So I've just started over again, only to look down and see that I actually had not pressed the final button to go live. And so I've just gone through another really great explanation about the imagination. So take 3. Hopefully we get there on this one. My comments are around the awareness that so many of us struggle to tap into our imagination, and that our imagination is the gateway to creating a new and different reality. The imagination is our easiest connection to our intuition and into our future self and what is drawing us forward. And so when I work with clients, we are very intentional about taking the mind and putting it aside. So I actually have them visualize when we go into meditation. We're going to just take our brain, because most people think of the brain as the mind. We're going to take our brain and we are going to literally just and put it in a beautiful little box, wrap it up, and let it know, hey, we're coming back for you. Because our brains are beautiful. Our minds are beautiful. They help us structure. They help us organize. They help us create plans. They help us execute. And they also get in the way of our imagination. As it turns out, my gift in this lifetime, like my number one gift, according to Gene Keys and Human Design, is the gift of imagination. So we'll be talking about human design. We will be talking about human design a lot, but we'll be talking about Gene Keys specifically in my next long podcast. And I'm going to be unpacking the genius sequence that shows like what you are here to do as your life's work, the evolution and what keeps you vital and radiant, and then your purpose. And so we're going to be looking at that sphere. But for me, mine is the gift is imagination. So perhaps I have an easier access point than most people to their imagination because it is my life's work. And yet I have to work on it as well. I am very easily driven by logic and my mind. I have a really, I think, quite a 50-50 balance between my imagination, my creativity, and my logical side. But the imagination, as I said, is our gateway into our intuition. It's the gateway into our higher self. When we go into imagination, where do the ideas come from? They're coming from the ether. They're coming from the greater source. They're coming in through our imagination. So the more that you allow yourself to daydream about possibility, the greater chance you have to create a new reality. So when we are not intentional about what we want to create, we get more of the same. And so our imagination is our gateway in. If you could hear my dogs, I'm sorry. So the imagination, what can you do? And the challenge is to not let the mind always dictate. And how do we do that? We can play, we can intentionally be creative, or we can tap in to our higher self through meditation and through future vision guidance and whatnot. So I was just working with a client, and which is what the inspiration for this conversation was. And we had a beautiful future self meditation. We got some really clear messaging about what is drawing her towards forward. But when we went into a second meditation where I invited her to, again, set the mind aside and we're going in, how does your most wildly beautiful day look like if you were doing everything that we've just outlined, which she had already said once she was out of the meditation, like, oh my gosh, if I could create that for my life would be amazing. And I was like, okay, great. We've got a really clear picture of where we're going. Let's go back in and get more detail. And so when we went in, I was like, okay, I want you to imagine you're waking up. It is like the perfect day in the future. You're vital. Everything's aligned. The finances are flowing. The heart connection is flowing. The joy, the all the things. I'm like, let's walk through what the day looks like. And we got from waking up to bird song and to what specific birds were waking her up and having a coffee in a leisurely morning. And then it was like, and then I go, and I start doing, and I'm doing productive work. And as soon as I heard productive work, I thought, there's the mind. And the mind had stepped in. The mind wanted to shape and say, this is possible. That's not possible. Oh, well, how is that going to work? And it makes all of this noise and it confuses us. And there's nothing wrong with her because this is what we're trained to do. We are trained to be realistic. We're trained to be practical. We're trained to be logical. We are not trained to be imaginative and creative or playful. We are trained out of it. Like as kids, we're allowed to play. How many of your adult friends do you know play? How many of them create? Like this is our inherent birthright. This is part of what makes us human is to be able to enjoy all of these aspects. We are not here just to work. What does that word even mean, work? Like, it just has such an awful sound. Like, can't we just be? Can we not bring our joy and light through the way that we be in the world and have that be our energetic exchange? Anyway, I set that aside. We talked about the neuroplasticity, and what actually happens is that our brains are trying to keep us safe. And when they try to keep us safe, what that means is they're going down the path of least resistance. They're going down the path they already know, right? Because anything that we can do fast, the brain says that's good. And the brain can do anything that we've done over and over and over. The first time you go to the gym, it's not that easy to lift the 50-kilo weight because you haven't trained your body to be able to do that. Could you get one in? Maybe, right? And then you wouldn't be able to do any more because you would have written yourself off. The brain works the same way. Like it's going to hit you with resistance if it's not a path that has gone down before. And the analogy I used was that of a forest. You imagine that you're, walking out of a beautiful green pasture into some bushland or into a forest. And if there's a path there, there's an easy way through, right? Someone else has done it and it's there and it's open and you can walk with ease. If, on the other hand, you decide, there's something this way I want to turn off, and the path has never been created, you've got brambles and you've got vines and you've got growth, you've got harder effort to get through. And then you have to get out the machete and you have to whack your way through because there is no path there. You can make it through, but it requires conscientious effort to go that path. And the same is true with the imagination. Not that the imagination has not that the imagination has to be hard, but if you want to create a different reality than what you've already created, you have to be conscientious about it. You have to be intentionally putting your attention in a different direction. You have to say, I'm going to stop that thought that says this is all that can be, and I'm going to allow myself to daydream. I'm going to allow myself to imagine something different. And when we can be guided by where our heart is calling us towards, then the more that we can create that same imagining, the more the brain will allow us to go down that path. Because the brain does not know the difference between reality and imagination. It does not know. And when we can allow imagination and we're allow connection to the heart, we can bring joy and beautiful experiences and emotions into the body, which creates a real physiological effect within the body. We have real serotonin release. We have real dopamine release when we allow ourselves to be in our heart space. Okay. And so the more that we can begin to shift intentionally towards what we would love to imagine for ourselves, that's when we can begin to create. Nothing ever existed that wasn't first imagined. Okay. So imagination is the very first step. All right. I'm going to love you and leave you on that note. It is Friday afternoon here in Australia. I wish you a beautiful weekend ahead, and I will see you soon.